blessed water. In a world where shadows lingered long after sunset, where the line between myth and reality blurred, a decision was made that would alter the course of history. It began with Father Samuel, a devout priest in a small Gothic town, who took it upon himself to rid the world of its darkest plague, vampires. For centuries, these creatures of the night had roamed freely, their existence a whispered secret, their thirst an insatiable curse. Holy water, it was known, could burn their flesh, but its reach was limited. Father Samuel was a man of great conviction and even greater ambition. One stormy evening, as the rain fell in torrents and the wind howled through the ancient streets, Father Samuel stood at the altar, a determined gleam in his eyes. With a fervent prayer, he extended his blessings beyond the sacred vials. He blessed the rain that pounded against the cathedral windows, the rivers that snaked through the land, the oceans that churned in the distance. And in his final, desperate act, he blessed the very water within the bodies of every living creature. As his words echoed through the empty church, the world outside began to change. The rain, now holy, drenched the earth, seeping into every crevice, every drop a weapon against the undead. The rivers and oceans, once neutral, turned lethal. And the water within the bodies of humans, once a simple, life-giving force, became a deadly poison to the creatures of the night. For a time, it seemed Father Samuel's plan had worked. Vampires were seen writhing in agony at the touch of water, recoiling from the rain, their once fearless demeanor shattered. Humanity breathed a collective sigh of relief, believing the nightmare had ended. But, as with all great victories, there came a cost. Weeks passed, and a strange phenomenon began to emerge. The vampires, who had managed to avoid the initial wave of destruction, were changing. They could no longer survive by simply avoiding holy water. It was everywhere, in everything. They needed a new strategy and way to sustain themselves in a world that had turned against them. And then, it happened. It started with a small village on the outskirts of the town. People began to disappear, not in the usual, violent way vampires were known for, but quietly, without a trace. The villagers were puzzled. There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no bodies. It was as if the missing had vanished. One night, a young woman named Eliza, whose sister had been one of the disappeared, decided to investigate. She armed herself with a silver cross and a vial of holy water, determined to find answers. As she ventured into the forest, the moonlight casting eerie shadows on the ground, she heard a rustling in the bushes. She approached cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. She parted the leaves and gasped at what she saw. There, in a clearing, stood a group of vampires. But these were not the fearsome, bloodthirsty creatures she had imagined. They were pale, gaunt, and frail, their bodies ravaged by the holy water that had permeated every part of the world. In their hands, they held something that made Eliza's blood run cold, small vials of human blood, carefully collected and stored. But this blood was different. It wasn't fresh, drawn from a living victim. It was old, dried, and rehydrated with the water meant to be their undoing. The vampires had found a way to neutralize the holy water, to render it harmless by mixing it with the blood of their long-dead victims. They had adapted and evolved, and in doing so, they had found a new way to survive. Eliza watched in horror as they consumed the tainted blood, their eyes glowing with renewed strength. They had turned Father Samuel's blessing into their salvation, finding life in death and turning a divine gift into a perverse weapon. As Eliza slowly backed away, she realized the terrible truth. The world had not rid itself of vampires, it had created something far worse, a breed of undead that could survive on the very thing meant to destroy them. And now, they were more dangerous than ever. She fled to the village, her heart heavy, knowing that the battle was far from over. Father Samuel's blessing was not the end, it was just the beginning of a new, more terrifying chapter. As she reached the safety of her home, she wondered how long it would be before the vampires came for them all, armed with the twisted gift they had been given. And so, in a world where water had become a weapon, the vampires had found a way to turn it back on their enemies, proving that sometimes, even the most well-intentioned acts can have the darkest consequences.